Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Football Pundits. If Nirvan is looking slightly happier today, then it's because we're discussing FA Cup, which generally is an upturn for Arsenal fans, as we saw again over the weekend. Today's episode, we're going to cover all the FA Cup matches, look at the highlights and the talking points, and see what is in store for the teams that are through to the semi-finals. I'm going to start with the guest of honor today, so to speak, Nirvan. Finally, feels good to have a victory under your belt and something positive.
Dude, it's been almost half a year since we've had a win, it feels like. So this was big. This was fun. It wasn't easy, but it was fun.
And what do you think? So I'm going to also link it to the win in midweek. Do you
Mhm.
think both the wins combined, do you think they've been convincing wins? Or do you think it's okay for now, at least it's a win?
I mean, in terms of just the results, I'm not as concerned about just the results as I am about us having a first team, like a distinct first team. Uh, like the goals that we've scored have been like, chalo, it went in, good job. We got a penalty, luckily, at the edge of the box, and that took us through a 1-0. Took us through to 1-0. And, then the second goal again was like a bit of a knockoff by the defender, which went to Ceballos, and then he sort of snuck one in. So these weren't, sort of distinct open play, convincing first team goals. They were sort of, the moment allowed for them, and we took them. So, the win is great, but we need to focus on, sort of having our own play. I mean, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that completely makes sense. I think another team that's sort of struggling with that, or at least struggled with that on during this FA Cup weekend, I think was United. And I'm going to put this one to you, Annie, because it was so frustrating to watch that game, wasn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't the best game to watch, visually. Even as a neutral, you would not want to watch that game, assuming you'd see United turn up and get like a 4-0, right? It was Norwich at the bottom of the freaking league. Okay, so our lineup wasn't our first team lineup. The players haven't played together for a while. They last played together in the FA Cup itself, which was more than 4 months back now. That being said, if you look at the quality still, and you look at the Norwich side, and you look at the way they made the substitutions, we should have definitely started much better. We weren't. We were sluggish. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's tactics. I always keep coming back to this. He's a great man manager. He's a great motivator. He's a great person to talk to the youth. His tactics always let him down, I feel. When it comes to a game like, I know Abhishek disagrees, but I'm not. You can't refer to PSG. It's wrong. I mean, you can't just idly think about this and look at the games he's won. Anyone can rally the players and play and beat Liverpool or draw with Liverpool.
I mean,
Man
beating City at the Etihad is not a pep talk at halftime or a pep talk before the start of the game. Beating City at Etihad was a chess game.
You know what makes a good tactical manager is not someone who just takes the big games, or someone who takes the small games against the bottom 10 sides who are struggling and just sit back and making your players go around, find a way to get past them. And we haven't. The reason why United are where they are outside the top 5 is because we lost points to those bottom teams. Now let's come back to the FA Cup into this. I feel like this was one of those moments where, again, I felt like we were in the pre-Jan. So 2019 end United, where we were struggling, no fluidity. I'm talking also about the fact that once they went to 10 men and we had players like Pogba and Martial on. Pogba didn't do too badly. He didn't do too much either. I felt Martial's inclusion is what finally created that space between centre backs and confused them, All in all, I think, to keep it short, that yes, we're through to the next round, but I don't think we would be favourites really over here.
Okay, I think that's, I also disagree with Annie on the tactical point, because Ole is someone who's done the double over Pep. First manager, one of the only managers to take points of Klopp. Outsmarted Lampard multiple times already this season. Obviously there is a problem against lower teams, against the lower ranked teams, but I think that's also to do with him having a squad which has been Andres Pereira and Jesse Lingard for most of the season. He needs to change that around with the firepower he has now, of course. But we're going to move on from United and on to a much more exciting game, which was Chelsea versus Leicester. And Abby, I want to tell me, what did you think of that game? For me, I think Leicester looked like the side who, for most of it deserved to get that win. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, no doubts about that. Leicester were playing at home. I think it was a very good performance from both sides. It was an interesting match to watch. Again, it was a very tactical game. It wasn't like there were goals free flowing. It looked like a chess game in the middle. You didn't have too much of free flowing football until the 60th minute, if you remember, when Chelsea kind of opened up. But I think it's also, in a way, two things to take out from this. One, I think Leicester are a fantastic footballing side. I don't think they're getting the credit that they deserve. I completely concur with Robbie Savage and what he said the other day in the studio about how they're bloody third, for God's sake, man. Why are you talking about a complete overhaul? But that's a conversation to be had another day. Talking about this Chelsea side, yes, I think Chelsea are now favourites for the FA Cup. Not because they are on form the hottest side, but I also think Man City, just going by squad depth and Pep's tactics, should be favourites to take it. But I don't think Man City and Pep have prioritized the FA Cup yet. I think it's still the Champions League that he'll be looking at as his number one sort of competition for this year. Purely based on that, I think Chelsea are looking a lot hotter than this United side are right now. I'm not even going to talk about Arsenal because I just think it's a big fluke, and it's no disrespect to Arsenal. It's just that the way that they've been playing, I think it's a fluke, and they should be happy to be where they are in the semis right now. And I'll let Nirvan talk about Arsenal right now and how Arsenal, we believe, are the underdogs going into the semi-finals. And I think they've done well to get to the semis. Anything beyond this now is a bonus.
I was just telling you, Nirvan, one second. I feel that I mentioned in the FA Cup preview as well, right? I said a 2-1 scoreline could go to Sheffield ideally, but could go the other way. And if Sheffield lose, they'll kick themselves. And if you saw that goal they conceded, even the penalty, but let's leave that aside, they'll be really, really kicking themselves hard. Because Sheffield had enough in them to easily take this game, and they didn't. And that's to do with the fact that Arsenal just got lucky, I feel. Nirvan.
Yeah, before I put this off to you, Nir, I'm going to just quickly round up on the fixtures that we had at hand before we go to looking forward. Just to touch upon the City. Yeah, just to touch upon the City Newcastle game again. I think I'm sort of disagreeing with Abby here because I think City played a full-strength squad. Pep has said now in the press that
100%.
the FA Cup is their go-to competition. And it sort of ends before the Champions League starts, right? And we've seen this problem with teams like a PSG who go into games like the Champions League not having that intensity of football in them. So I think Pep will want to keep his players playing, at their highest intensity. And the games like the FA Cup present that opportunity for them to be playing at that level, especially considering the four teams now are, all top caliber sides to say, which brings me to Arsenal. They are somewhat FA Cup veterans, so to speak. Nirvan, these guys have a lot to say about Arsenal. What do you think? Do you think they can go ahead and win this, basically?
We've scored 4 goals in the last 2 games, none of which have been have had any sort of build-up play leading up to the goal. To be very honest, that I might as well say it, right? It is what it is. Yeah. Now, if we have to play City first and then either United or Chelsea after, that kind of football is not going to help us win the game. You can't rely on City messing up to allow you to sort of win the game. So it is going to come down to Arteta spending the next few days in establishing a team that is equipped enough to deal with a tactically sound team. Because at this point, we cannot deal with a tactically sound team because we've been prying on the mess ups of the other teams. Even the goal that we conceded, I mean, we were lucky that it was just one, where it just hit Mustafi on the chest and landed for the striker to go in. But, we can't have a defensive line like that, against the likes of all 3 teams. There's none of these 3 teams that, we can sort of contain. So it is difficult, but we do have the players. They just need chemistry. I feel like at this point they just lack chemistry. Ceballos, showed his attacking spirit yesterday when he just took charge, ran into the box and just slaughtered it home. So that does give me hope. You let the players do what they do best and let the best players play together and figure out a way how to operate as a machine. That can give us a chance, even if it means focusing on only these 2 FA Cup games for the rest of the season. It will be a very big win for us. So in terms of the season in general. So I guess that's where the focus should lie, according to me.
I just have one line. The FA Cup is most important for Arsenal because of the Europa place. I think that's the only reason why Arsenal will prioritize it. Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, that is anyways the best we can do in terms of the season in the league. So might as well prioritize 2 games over the next 8. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
it just seems like a good trade.
Yeah, Arsenal don't really have that much to fight for anymore in the league, realistically
Nope.
speaking, whereas the other teams might. Danny, but let's talk about Arsenal's opponents, Man City. What do you think of their chances for the FA Cup now that the Premier League is done for them, essentially?
So
What are you putting the chances at?
to start off with, I agree with you, Kern, and disagree with Abby. We feel that Pep Guardiola prioritized this game right before the Chelsea fixture as well. We knew that they were a little lackluster coming into it. The motivation wasn't really there, and you could tell with the way they were playing, right? In terms of team selection, did he rest too many players? For the Chelsea game, not really, but he would have probably wanted Jesus to be a catalyst against Chelsea as well, which he didn't. Coming on to how they played last night and in terms of how they started off, the loss against Chelsea aside, which is I feel the pivotal point of how they played all season and ended up 20 points behind Liverpool, City should still be your favourites, right? In terms of their squad depth, which is very important. We're talking about game week fixtures happening 3 weeks from now. Games are coming in back to back. We'll have 5 Premier League games before that per side.
And can you make a team favourites based on squad depth? Because we all said the same thing before Chelsea City. Oh, squad depth, but they lost.
No, but we also said
there needs
that
to be a larger argument in this.
No,
right?
so I would make the larger argument once I finish my point. But yeah, basically, we spoke about this as well, but we also said that Pep will rest 1 or 2 players, and he did. And that proved to be the pivotal point right there as well. Now, when it comes to the fact that the league is done, Pep Guardiola's only motivation is his ego. He has to win the FA Cup and the Champions League. It's simple. He's going to do everything that it takes to keep his players fresh and going for the FA Cup. He's going to train them. He's going to hammer them. He's going to make it his mission to firstly definitely destroy Ole Gunnar Solskjaer because of what you mentioned, the way he was beaten at Etihad as well. Now, when you give men like Pep Guardiola and Jose Mourinho all the time in the world and motivation, that's all they need. In terms of what else does City have in this with them, Aguero could be back. It's not definite that he's out for the season. It's right now him consulting a specialist to just assess how serious the damage is and if he can play on right now. Kevin De Bruyne is looking like still the sharpest midfielder, even on a very bad day against Chelsea. He still has it in him to win the game for us. Yes, United are building slowly and getting there, and Pogba, Bruno might be ticking till then as well. But if you ask me, I would say looking at United's history in the semi-finals, in general, we do seem to get a little unlucky. So I would just slightly favor Man City, but Abhishek, you're right. Not overtly, but slightly.
I'm just to double down on Annie's squad depth point about City. I think where it plays a huge impact is because Chelsea are now going to be going all out in the league for sure for that top 4 position with Wolves and United and the likes not easing pressure off them. So the squad depth will obviously come into play just because teams are playing every 2 days, every 3 days. How much pressure can they take? It's always good to have those fresh legs come on and, also motivate the players. You've seen it with United as soon as Brandon Williams was gunning for that left back position, Shaw upped his game. So I think that's going to help City a bit, and that might put too much pressure on the Chelsea players. But Abby, I'm going to ask you. You clearly seem to think that Chelsea are favourites. So take us through your thoughts on that.
So I just think purely down to the way they're playing right now, and I think so squad depth. I think what you guys meant was by the time we get to the semis and the finals.
That's what I said.
My point on this actually was that we've been harping on, right, about squad depth. My larger point was City are looking formidable. They're looking 6-0, 7-0 against mediocre sides right now. Where I was trying to come from was in that Chelsea game, right? They were woeful. They were terrible. And who was the worst player on the pitch that day? Benjamin Mendy, right? Benjamin Mendy was someone who had just come back after a long layoff injury. He was arguably the best left back in the league, at his peak time. They still played Kevin De Bruyne. They had a pretty good squad. They had a pretty good team.
True.
Where I'm coming from is I don't think City are showing enough. Okay, the squad depth is there, but in the matches that count, in these big games, they're not showing enough. Yes, they've had rested legs. They're producing a starting lineup of 11 players who are probably individually the best in their positions in the Premier League. But I'm just saying that when it actually matters, when it comes together, Pep hasn't shown it this season. Whereas Chelsea, on the other hand, on paper, they're almost the opposite. You look at all their starting 11, you look at the players and you scratch your head thinking, yeah, there's no way they're going to get a result. How are they going to be? But they are producing that form. They are producing the results that matter. So that's where I come from when I talk about Chelsea. Yes, they have a much tougher run in for top 4 vis-a-vis United and things like that. But then when you go into this FA Cup and just purely based on how they've been playing, I think Lampard's unit are far more structured. They look like a team that can go ahead and win it. With Pep, I'm still saying when it matters, will he click? I don't know. And that's where I come from when it comes to Champions League. Yes, Champions League is still 24 days after the FA Cup final. But I still feel in terms of motivations and priorities, that's going to be Pep's number one target. This City squad hasn't shown me enough to say that, yeah, they'll compete for both with ease, or as much ease as maybe the three of you all are seemingly saying that they will.
I'm not saying
I'm
ease.
just not seeing enough.
I'm not saying ease. I'm saying they hold a slightly better advantage. That's a big difference.
Yeah.
And ease would be if you had a PSG kind of squad just idly and doing nothing over here. That's on a slight edge, because I'm assuming by then this squad will play way more. And we know City keep playing well, and even against the mediocre sides, they just build up that confidence to keep hammering 3-4 goals in a game. That's about it.
Yeah, so I think we're going to move on from this City-Chelsea debate. I think the only way to settle this will be actually after we see the games. I'm going to be talking about teams that have been performing, under pressure. I think United are ones that have done that this season. As we discussed, lower sides are not doing much, but when it actually comes to the big games, United have been performing. So that's where, I'm interested in seeing them. Hopefully, when these games happen on the 18th July weekend, by that time, Bruno and Pogba would have got enough time together. Rashford would have started to click. United fans will be looking forward to that. And I think that's going to be a key one there. And I think we've, looked at all these sides. Before, we sort of wrap up, I'm going to quickly ask everyone to keep their biases aside and just let me know who they think are going to win the FA Cup. I'm not going to look at the semi-final ties right now, but I'm just going to say outright, who do you think is going to win the FA Cup? And I'm going to start with Nirvan, because I think he's giving me some interesting
Nirvan is going to wrap up a shawarma
Arsenal
for
to
you.
play United.
Right
Arsenal
now.
to play United in the finals, and Arsenal to win 2-1.
That'll be a big throwback. That'll be some interesting throwback.
That's going to be fun. That's going to be fun. That's going to be fun.
Annie, what do you think?
I mean, going by what Nirvan said, Gen Z will be completely disconnected from that final. But I think genuinely, City might edge United and Chelsea will beat Arsenal. So it'll be Chelsea City for me in the final.
1 second.
Yeah, I think you've got the fixtures messed up.
You got the fixtures wrong. We play Chelsea, Annie.
United, Chelsea, and Arsenal City.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. I feel that Chelsea will beat us in the semi-final, like I said earlier. And I feel that City will get past Arsenal with these. So.
And then the final?
Yeah, so I think Chelsea will get past United. It hurts me to say it, but I think we'll see a Chelsea-City final, and I think Chelsea will win the FA Cup. Just to add to Nirvan's point, if you were to ask us for a prediction on the other semi-final game, I'm going 6-0 to City against Arsenal.
And here you said Pep's team isn't clicking. And I got so hopeful. I'm like,
like I said, Pep's team isn't clicking against the bigger sides. Against mediocre sides, they are looking formidable.
I think
you ended the shit. Can I curse? Can I curse? Please, can I curse?
I think it's not a football pundits episode with Nirvan unless we make him feel bad about being an Arsenal.
Yeah, I was just like, dude, we've won 2 games in a row. This is going to be the best football pundits ever. And here, it's
Nirvan's got rabbit ears right now.
So I think we've got split winners from everyone. Everyone's going for a different winner. So just to make things interesting, I'm going to say City are going to win this. I think everyone's gone with different winners. But I'm really, who thought we'd say this? I'm really
good. You should go for United. And he went for City.
Yeah, sure. So then
you go for United.
Sure. That's my prediction. Sure.
Why not?
Yeah, because it's the FA Cup. Anything can happen.
I will tilt.
True. Arsenal can win.
Yeah, exactly. So on that note, guys, I think we're all looking forward to the FA Cup. Whoever thought we were going to say that. But it's the 18th July weekend, and we'll see you guys for a special preview for that for sure before we get to those. But thank you so much for tuning in. Please don't forget to hit subscribe, comment on the videos. Let us know what you think. Go to our Twitter handles there everywhere across somewhere. And thank you so much.